Welcome, travelers. We are back with you around the Hearth. This time we are at the Black Dragon Gaming channel, and we're talking about the creatures that we talked about last time, CR1 and lower, and this time we're talking about encounters that you can use them for. So, Tommy, you're the officiator this time. Take it away.
I did it. I'm the big guy. What's going on, guys? We are back with who we got from Planar Crossroads. This is just Kane and Adam. Yep.
Yo.
We are back with Kane and Adam from the Planar Crossroads, bouncing back and forth, doing these around talks, having fun, helping you guys get better at your craft, and for stay till midnight my time talking about random nothings after. But I digress. Today we are putting together encounters. Last week on Adam's channel we talked about DR1 and lower monsters that either swing way over their CR, which is particularly interesting. If you want to check that out, I'll throw a link in the description for sure. For now, I guess I'll just turn it over to everybody else, see what you guys are thinking, set the tone for maybe I'll put this next thing for fun and profit playlists, depending on how super optimized and stuff everybody's encounters are. But enough about me. Let me turn it over to you guys. Whoever wants to jump on it.
Who wants to go first?
Kane does.
No, I let go.
So, one of the encounters I'd come up with, this is kind of, Tommy really likes to put me in encounters at the beginning of his games. This one's kind of that, but we're just talking about the first half of it as like a first encounter in a game, as a scene setup. And so, essentially, I'm not going to describe this like I would as a GM. I'm going to describe it for like Joseph's encounter for dummies. We're starting out. Adam, do you want to interrupt me?
No, that was thunder. I'll turn myself down.
It's fine. I just kept hearing. So we're starting out in the middle. We have our PCs in this it's not a very big fortification. It would be big enough that it would fit in a pretty decently sized map if you wanted to draw it IRL. But they're in a small stone fort. They're surrounded by mostly humans and halflings, maybe random races. A lot of the just normal PC races will usually be there, but it's mostly humans and halflings. They are defending. Part of the wall has been breached, and pouring through a hole in this wall are just crap tons of these human, just level 1, basic. Some of them probably are going to be warriors, some of them fighters, but they're just going to be CR1 humans, just kind of wave defense as they charge through this gap in the wall. And essentially what we're going for here is just kind of a light test of wave defense. How long can they hold out against these guys before they're eventually overwhelmed? And at the end we have a kind of just a powerful NPC steps in who changes the tide of the battle in the end, and kind of sets up for some great roleplay moments and stuff later on in the campaign regarding this NPC and this battle. And yeah.
I didn't realize. I can dig it. I like scenes like that a lot because, I feel, and the course take this with a grain of salt, but I feel that CR is largely an arbitrary thing. If your players know what they're doing, they'll be able to swing way above CRs. And like I said, and I have said across a lot of videos, Scissors is always going to crush rock. There's always going to be things that are just way far above and beyond. If the paladin is going against that zombie and he hits the smite evil, if that zombie has 1d4 whatever levels, he's still going to just crush it. That said, don't here's an Imperial Lord level 1 fighter, haha, figure it out. You got this. But it seems like you're doing the wave defense. you can make about a CR1 encounter feel like it's really big, make it like it's something that. And Joe says I'm a big fan of the like impossible first fight, and I guess I am, but it makes it feel bigger than just like you turn the corner. Here are 3 goblins, waha! And like you can also, I think encounters in and of themselves are just kind of. I guess the word I'm going to use is overdone. Maybe it's just because like you watch a bunch of streams of like people like here's this dungeon, or you'll go to a pickup group and you turn the corner and open that door, things fight them, and they'll just like every other door you open it up and here's that. Something like what Joe is describing is like, I mean, technically that could be higher than a CR1 encounter if the party barbarian decides he's gonna just like go bear hug everybody. But as a GM, if you can play that as like okay, we talked about ghouls, and I imagine when we get to Cave, we're gonna be talking about some ghouls. But if like a wooden pallet is torn down, same scenario, and here comes obviously way over a CR1 encounter, but the majority of them just like fall on NPCs and start eating them because that's what ghouls are after anyway, and stay like 1 or 2 turns towards the party, you have that CR1 encounter, but it doesn't feel like an encounter. It feels a lot bigger than it is. It feels more than just like boring, kick in the door, smack things.
Yeah,
I think
that's what I was thinking about when I was talking about the halflings and the humans and the like intermixed like other races in there. Those guys are going to be definitely. They're not going to just be standing there watching from the rampart. Just, oh look, there's that cleric down there. He's getting beaten up by those Landesteck. That's what.
yeah,
Kind of like mass combat without the mass combat.
yeah, mass combat in Pathfinder is super. I like swarms. I really do. I like template. I think that's about the best way to do it. But nevertheless, they can still just be like a huge mess if you don't know what you're doing with it. As coming from somebody who, like, as I do Pathfinder games moving forward and forward, I'm gonna try to, like, as a fan of the Mountain Blades and the Total Wars and all those things, I'm going to try to perfect the art of mass combat in the tabletop setting. But that is neither here nor there. Why don't we pass it to Kane? He was the one talking about just a second ago. I just put an encounter together. Let's hear, buddy.
Okay, so you mentioned I was going to be talking about goals, and you're correct. I am going to be talking about goals. Last week when we were talking about monsters of, I also mentioned the Ghast, and I'm not going to be talking about Ghast in a future video, but a Ghast is basically just a ghoul with the advanced template and a stench ability. If you were going to run there with ghouls, you could probably pretty easily throw a Ghast in there too, since they're really not that much more dangerous. But I digress. So, if I'm going to use one specific monster for an encounter, I'm not going to mix it up. I like to know a lot about that monster and try to play to that critter's strengths. So even if there's only one or two, or in this case, the one I have written down here, 4 of them against like a level 1, 2, 3 party, you're still going to be able to make that challenge, that encounter challenging by playing to that monster's strengths. So, if like for instance, with ghouls, they have undead traits, so they can see in the dark, to poison. They're immune to anything that calls for a fortitude save, sleep, stun, death effects, mind affecting effects, poison, yada 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 yada. And they also prefer to eat corpses that have been dead for a couple days. They like it. They think they taste better when they've been rotting, which is super gross.
It tenderizes the meat.
Dang it. They like to hang out in graveyards. Like, they'll take over old crypts or mausoleums that have been abandoned. Or, in some cases, I mentioned earlier also a feat for ghouls called civilized ghoulishness, where they can pass for human. So it wouldn't really be a far stretch for a ghoul to pose as the groundskeeper of a graveyard. So basically, the bodies get buried. They're left there for a couple days. The ghouls exhume the bodies, eat them, and then go back. And it's like just a refreshing food source for them, especially in a really big city.
Wow, a ghoul with pass for task for living or whatever it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can dig it.
But they also sometimes hang out in the sewers, wherever they can get away from prying eyes. And since they're immune to poison or like poison-like effects, if you were to have a party follow them into a crypt, and that like in that crypt that's buried beneath the ground, they've dug through the dirt into an adjoining sewer system. If that party has to follow them down into the crypt and then down into the sewer system, that party has to deal with the fact that they're underground they're in a sewer, so it might not, depending on your GM, be the best idea to light a torch. And you're like ghouls, even as low CR monsters, have good climb checks and good stealth. So you're dealing with monsters in the dark that are really good at hiding and can climb on the ceiling because it's like rough stone work. And it sort of makes for a really nasty hit and run Aliens 2 encounter in the sewers with a bunch of monsters that if you mess up attitude save, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, you definitely are. That's like, and I guess I should point out now, I think I haven't looked at your alt page in a minute, but in 25 subs, I think that's right. Planar Crossroads is going to be running a one-shot, like a subscriber appreciation thing for helping them get up. And I mean, frankly, when they do lore stuff, their quality is way better than mine is. So if you like my stuff, you're going to love theirs. And Kane is going to be the one GMing this. So if you guys are like what he's talking about, if you think that'd be fun to play, and definitely drift over into Planar Crossroads, give them a subscribe, and maybe you too can be lucky enough to be a part of that.
Yeah, don't hold out for a Spielberg-esque story, but the encounters are going to be rough.
Sounds like all of my campaigns ever.
I will say that the viewers and subscribers would get something that I have yet to get, which is a game from Kane. So.
Every group has that one that won't jam, and you have to like get a 10-foot pole and jab it into the back. Just turn. I guess we don't have that really anymore here at home. But oh well, I digress. I guess I'll go ahead and take the initiative here. And
I will say just one more thing real quick about ghouls. Because there's a couple different types. Like I mentioned, another type of ghoul is called a Lacedon, which is an aquatic ghoul. Which you could throw in like submerged ruins, or I thought this would be super gross. You could throw them in the sewer encounter.
Ugh. And that makes the CR like big, quote unquote, because again, I don't have a whole lot of faith in CRs, depending on like stuff. But underwater, if you don't have a piercing weapon, you're doing half damage.
Oh yeah, no, CR is like a rule of thumb based upon the ideal 4-man party. So there's a lot of wiggle room.
Oh yeah, for sure. But once you're on half damage, if that ghoul is doing full damage because it's the natural attacks, you're like, I don't know, your great X or something is not hitting for as hard as it should, and then half the party's paralyzed and coup de grace.
Doing half of 4.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, aren't you paralyzed? Like, when you get paralyzed, do you not immediately begin drowning? There's not that, like, 20 rounds or whatever.
Technically, you stand stock still. You don't actually fall down when you become paralyzed.
Okay.
It's sort of like all your muscles lock up. You don't, like, turn into a puddle person.
You're in, like, 20-foot deep water, and then you get paralyzed.
Yeah, you'd stop swimming, and you'd begin drowning in sewage.
And then it's a 3-round clock. Rough.
Lovely.
Anyway, so my encounter to take the initiative here, and it's kind of cheating, but like because we didn't talk about it, I had a 2-part. But last week I forgot to put it in there because I didn't forget how good they are, but I wasn't thinking about this. At CR1, it gets like worse and worse the more members of the party you have, and the more members in the party who are like spellcasters / archers / stuff like that. But a level 1 human swashbuckler will get the job done 10 out of 10 times. Like, I didn't realize personally how powerful they were until I started seeing them played in Joke and a Test. And there was one time, this is not CR1, we were like level 8 or 9, and I was just messing around with it, and I had the party's bard had gotten really separated from the group in like the zombie ruins of Absalom. It was super fun. But I decided I would put him up against a Tengu swashbuckler, and he died a lot, as this thing is just parry riposte, parry riposte, parry riposte. The reason
was this?
This was Josh. This was Zoella, level like I said, like level 8. We were trying to get off Absalom. Wall of Loving Elephants.
Okay. Yeah, I remember now.
That was a long time ago. Yet again, I get old game nostalgia when I'm talking to the IOPC guys. Anyway,
I just got vaguely like an image of that in my head, and I'm like, when did that happen? I remember it, but not really.
so the reason I say a swashbuckler is good is because they have an ability at first called Opportune Parry and Riposte, and I miscalled this on the live stream. Well, I guess not live stream, but you get the point. What they do is you go to attack them, they spend a panache point, and they spend an attack of opportunity, and basically you guys have opposed rolls, and if the swashbuckler rolls higher than the person attacking them, the attack automatically misses, and then after that, the swashbuckler gets a free attack. I was confusing it, thinking you just spent attack of opportunity free and then panache your opposed, but the riposte is entirely free, and the reason that's strong is because we talk about a thing called action economy in Pathfinder, and we talk about like you need to get haste, you need to have like all the attacks you can around, blah blah blah. But if you have attacks on their round, that makes you all the stronger. So, say you've got like I don't know, one of the players is on like a fledgling 2-weapon fighting character, and you pit him up against a human swashbuckler. He's taking negative to his attack, or even like power attack before Furious Focus. Here comes this dude swinging real big, and then I cause you to miss. And if I fail my parry, I am dex based. My armor class is probably anyway. But you miss your attack, and then I get an attack on your turn, and then it's my turn, and then I attack you, and I can also like Joe calls it swashbuckling. Essentially, just like take your move action, don't 5-foot step, just like waltz through the party and see who it does or doesn't provoke from. And then when it provokes, you just spread the damage around to everybody. And this is something that can definitely scale with level.
No, you do not.
Because,
You do not waltz. You dance through the party, and you flow through the party.
And you always make inspired blades because they're overpowered as shit.
Yes, so good. Yeah. But again, the reason I like it is because you're like the king of action con, and you can like just get way more attacks than everybody else is, and you can make, whether this is like a flavorful big bad that's gonna come back and forth as they level, or it's just like somebody to really frustrate the party. It's really strong that I want to talk about, and I imagine this encounter definitely tips over CR1. But we talked about the Pugwampy Gremlin last week, and I don't remember the range. I think it's 20 feet. That essentially in 5e language, we give everybody disadvantage on everything, no save, unless they have a luck bonus. So if you really want to hose your parties, or like you've got veterans that just think like they know how to speak Pathfinder and they know all about it, what we do is if there's a bunch of newbies in the party, we use this on like goblins or kobolds or something a little less powerful. But if it's a bunch of like vets or people with really high con mods / really high like hit dice, put it on orcs, because orcs again just swing well over their CR in terms of damage, and all of them take one your choice cleric or war priest level, and they do this or I guess oracle too, and they do this so they can cast divine favor on themselves, and when they cast divine favor on themselves, they have a luck bonus and then are immune to the Pugwampy in like their backpack, which is spitting out an unluck aura. So we have, I don't know, I imagine party of like 5 or 6. I'm gonna say like 5 goblin war priests, and then there's a Pugwampy and however many backpacks of however many goblins that like you need to make it work and just rush the party, and then you describe it as like you go to swing and you sure you hit, but then at the last moment it misses and you're not sure what happened. Don't ever like feed the this is an unlock art. It is provided by Gremlin. Because then that's less fun than the players all scratching their heads forever trying to figure out why little angry big ears is just stabbing everybody to death. Other than that, that's pretty much like I also, like I said, I think CRs are entirely arbitrary, and I also think like your ability to produce a CR worth of encounter can depend a lot on like the setting that you're in. This is why I wanted I was really enjoying watching these guys do the Rise of the Rune Lords thing, but it was Thistletop that tipped me over like I need to get on this, I need to get a piece of this action, because the way Adam presents what most GMs would be just like you open the door, here are some goblins. This one has a gecko? Yeah, a gecko. That was it. And then here is a hobgoblin. If you have like a really big encounter, you can always part it out to make smaller encounters, or even like if you have something that's even bigger to make a quote unquote CR1 encounter. Once I don't know, say it's got like 6 hit dice. Once they do 2 hit dice worth of damage, say that it's going to retreat and like send the actual CR1 encounter in, and then come back still somehow a couple of rounds later and just lather, rinse, repeat. But I've rambled a lot. Let's go to Adam. Use the might is what I saw on Facebook.
Yeah, I dibbed the might because I liked that idea of the might, which is a very pitiful and pitiable creature. It is the base might that you actually find in it, not in a third-party one, is a CR 1/4. It is not very strong. And I was like, how can I turn this little creature into something more? And I thought, I know how. And it was, like we talked about before, with the Vermin Lord. Or, you don't have Vermin Lord in Pathfinder, but basically the class that is like it. So, Vermin Lord, or at least the vibe of the Vermin Lord, for the might, would probably be best from something like the Swarm Monger Druid archetype. Because I'm not worried about making this guy specifically survivable, but more thematic. You can have a might encounter. So say you come to a little village, it's at the base of this mountain or a little ways up the mountain, and they're just having problems with all this disease and this stuff going around, and their food stores are getting ate up by different insects, and it's just really problematic for them. Well, the PCs and they all kind of try to figure out what's going on, and eventually they come around and they find out that this exiled might has found his way up closer to the surface from the Underdark, and he is riding because it is a CR. Let me see, 1/4. You can give it 3 class levels and still keep the creature itself within 100. I mean, within a CR1. So he gets 3 class levels of the Swarm Monger, which means he has a fecund familiar. And for your familiar, for your druid level, you take the Scarlet Spider, so that you can start getting that poison damage in. It is probably the best. It is probably the best familiar that you can get right off the bat that gives you poison to start with. And because these are farmers and stuff like that, they're not going to have big fortitude saves, so it's a DC 10 fortitude, but that thing can bite them in their sleep while they're asleep. So that DC goes up a little bit, as well as the fact that it doesn't have to kill them today. It could come back and bite them tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, until those pesky little humans on the surface is out of way, and the might Swarmmonger or Blight Druid would work, get to go and claim all the foodstuffs that are up there. So the PCs eventually find this out, and this is a Might with 3 Druid levels, taking a Scarlet Spider Familiar, getting some Poison DC going, and he has something called Vermin Empathy right off the bat as a racial feat. That means he can use, with a +4 to the check, a wild empathy type of check, diplomacy basically, on a medium vermin, and they like to use spiders. Which means you get to have your little Might ride around on a CR1 medium, quote, giant spider that is immune to mind-affecting effects, has climb, can spin webs, and really trap up that entire little cave system that the PCs have to wander into. So the PCs have to do that, they have to think about that. And the Swarmmonger doesn't even have to come up to the surface in the daylight, therefore negating his problems with light sensitivity. And he can see in the dark, basically. So, and he has DR2 Cold Iron, so he's going to get, you give him one of his feats to be Toughness at first level. He's going to have an extra 3 hit points, so he's going to have a 6 at least. It can get pretty good, especially if you say, you know, this doesn't feel like it's going to be tough enough for the PCs, even in the lairs. So say his lair is just littered with a bunch of house centipedes. These are pitiful little creatures, 1/8 creatures. But again, the poison, all they have to do is hit you. And if you're hit consecutively with the same type of poison over and over again, the DC just goes up and up and up. So eventually you do fail. Eventually you have to take that days for 1 round, which can be very problematic. So yeah, that's my encounter. Having the PCs have to deal with that. That could get pretty tricky if they weren't prepared for such a thing.
Yeah, it certainly can, and that kind of like it makes me worry for Aiden tomorrow in the one shot I'm going to be doing in the Planar Crossroads in their homebrew setting. Hopefully, if I get the Spirited Charge 1 thing to death, I'll be happy. You can fort save me into the ground. My saves are crap. I had to spend all the money on my lance to make it viable.
Yeah, you're going to spend all your time flying. You'll be fine.
It'll be sweet.
Well, I will say that for those that are going to try and tune in, I think we're going to try and broadcast it to Twitch like we usually do. But for those going to come in, it's not going to be very grid heavy. You still get to, there will be combat, but it will mainly be theater of the mind. So, you will probably have plenty of time to charge some things down. But you're going to, it may not be what everyone is expecting in Milcian. So
I imagine it won't be. I imagine, like I've caught up with Strange Events now, so I imagine the reason everybody was on Bergothiel was because of what happens at the end of Strange Events, and just like we have to go back and fix it, I guess.
Oh yeah, well I don't know. What did you think of Strange Events of Milcian and that ending?
It wasn't bad. I didn't expect it. I definitely expected like dumb joke campaign, and I mean that like offensively, but like everybody's got dumb pun names, and like here we are hanging out in a bar and stuff, and just suddenly everything is terrible, and oh my god.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. That's what everybody else thought was going to happen too.
Jeez.
I like to do that
And
too.
the sheriff's deputy shoots himself in the head with a hand crossbow.
Yep. Hey, no spoilers. No spoilers for those who haven't watched.
That episode got dark real fast.
It did.
Yeah.
It was super rough. There's babies involved. It was no fun. Super fun. But so who haven't we heard from before we? Haven't heard from Sarah. Haven't heard from Donald. Sarah, you want to?
Donald just unmuted.
Okay, I guess it's Donald.
Well,
One of my favorite monsters that I liked that I go back to, I think it was first or second edition, it had to be the Drow. and with all the feats that the drow get to take, you get to have a lot of fun with the drow if you level them up, especially using the drow noble template. Anyway, getting back to CR, so picture a level 1 party entering the Underdark or the Darklands, and they're traveling through the Darklands, and they encounter a drow raiding party. And if you give the drow class levels for CR 1/2 to CR 1, they can easily wreck a party, especially if they're using drow poison to capture the party alive, and then combine other vermin that comes with them as well, such as the red. What is the spider name you mentioned, Adam? Is it the red velvet or red?
The Scarlet Spider familiar.
Yes. So you have a drow cleric, a few drow fighters that have drow poison, and you know how the DC for poison stack if you succeed, and then you have that spider as a companion. That's a deadly combo right there, especially against a veteran group of players. It just only take one. It only take one failed fort save before the drow poison take effect. Poisons are not a thing that you shouldn't joke around. I had a player in a game once. He joked his fortune save was so good that he's immune to most poisons, and he failed a fortune save, got a natural 1, and he was paralyzed for the entire fight. Poisons are quite a serious thing, especially if you get to have the DC very high for them. But yeah, drow are my favorite creature to use, just for flavor and for what I can do with them as a GM.
Fair enough. Isn't drow poison just like straight up paralysis? It is, isn't it?
Yes. This is why
drow poison is sleep. It knocks you unconscious.
I see.
Yeah, sleep, and then if you knock them out using a tap, that pretty much permanently paralyze them until they rest up.
Yeah.
So that's a deadly combo right there.
If you don't just get like flat out coup de grace, like if we're talking low CR encounters, oh god, why can't I think of the name of the spell? Color spray. That's a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing I think I've cast it once as a player when, this was Mahariel's like day one, all our gear is stripped, and it's like, I can magic missile that guy with the whip, and we'll try color spray. Ha!
Yeah, that was the same game that we were shown how to swashbuckler get.
Yep, yes it was.
Francois parried a whip attack with his claws.
It was sweet.
Color spray is one of my must-have withered spells if I begin off in the lower levels. I think I did use that spell once in the Thursday to knock out a few commoners.
I think you did.
Yeah, I did. But anyway, drow poison, and if they use proper tactics, they are quite the menace, especially if they're in their own terrain, such as the water elementals at the higher CRs. Which, when it comes to CR, you really should take into the environment they are in as well for CR, because a water elemental on the surface, not in water, is easier to kill, but a water elemental in water, that's tougher to kill unless if you're prepared. So, as you say, CR, it's not a exact science to figure a good combat.
Yeah, for sure. And terrain is definitely a thing. Like I said, water, you can shut off a party really fast if they're not ready for it. I guess I don't necessarily want to say like throw the party into the air, because of course they're all going to fall and die horribly. But even like dumb environmental conditions, like say like extreme heat, extreme cold, people are going to fail that save at low levels. And I don't remember the exact line temperature-wise, where it like every round you must make this save, and that save goes up as well every time you have to make it. So if you want to chuck them in like an active volcano or the polar terribleness or anything like that, they can take an encounter and like not necessarily balance. I don't say balance it, but they can make it more challenging for players that are just like, again, veterans. They know what everything does. They know like this monster does this and its bad save is that. I guess I should also say while designing any encounter of low level to all the way up, it's important. And on an 8-man party, I don't exactly know on Thursdays where everybody lies, but I should. I'm terrible. You should know what everybody's bad save is, because a low CR something or another that has like that's gonna will save this happens, or a ghoul turn it against somebody with a bad fort. It can be a lot more effective than just like, hey, fight these ghouls. I'm sure the paladin's gonna have a blast because that's what they're like made to do. But fighter with a bad fort save, I think Magi have a bad fort. I'm pretty sure, and I know alchemists have a bad will save. So Joe's definitely spent a lot of time in Lordly Caliber. Just I'm gonna cast Hold Person on what is obviously the biggest threat, not realizing he's gonna fail it, and he's locked out forever and ever and ever.
Also, CR
I'm
doesn't.
rambling a bunch.
Also, CR doesn't mean the creature is on that same power level. In a game that I GM'd last week, this was against a group of level 15 players, and I used 2 Banshees, and I thought this would be an easy fight for them, but most of them failed their fortitude save and against the Whale of the Banshee attack, and that almost killed the entire party.
It made them dead.
Yeah, the good thing, the party was designed around dealing with the incorporeal and the undead.
Yeah.
So
like there's one time we used the deck of many things a lot at home, and I had a paladin once, and he drew from the deck of many things, and he got Fight the Dread Wraith, and when we got Fight the Dread Wraith, I'm scaling it with level, so I put him up against the Banshee, and I can't touch him. That said, in the later game, at much higher level, I had someone cast Whale of Banshee, and just characters are dropping left and right. They didn't realize how powerful that spell was until one of the players just, well, Persephone is dead. Dead.
Oh yeah, I have personal experience with that spell. It's real nasty. I was the only high fort save character in an entire party.
Oh god. Sorry, like you're the only one standing.
Oh yeah, and it happened more than once.
Oh god.
That's
the
when
one
somebody
thing-
needs to take greater fortitude.
Yes, sir.
One thing I like about casters, especially playing the higher levels, is the pretty good damaging spells you get to use at the higher levels, such as Harm, Go Touch, Way of Disintegration.
That was fun.
Yeah, those are spells you don't want to toss around lightly.
Yeah. So the only person we haven't heard in terms of like what we're actually talking about, not that I don't love talking to my friends and stuff, but we haven't heard from my wife as far as like low CR stuff that you've built, you've run, you've seen that are particularly effective, things you like, things that are fun. I remember a troglodyte.
You want me to talk about Tulak?
You can talk about Tulak if you want, and I remember it.
Alright, well I guess it's memorable. It's mostly just funny because I was doing an AP at the time.
It's a
And
Master of the Fallen Fortress, is that right?
I don't remember it all.
It
It was
was,
like 3
yeah.
years ago.
I remember it was Master of the Fallen Fortress because we had the first ever Pathfinder game that group played. We played Master of the Fallen Fortress, but we didn't know what it was. And then, like, here we go a year later, Sarah's going to put her feet in the GM water and, hey, try this. This will be fun. And we start looking at the maps and we realize it's the exact same thing. So we get to this dude's house and just, Matt, you didn't come up with that. You stole it. But anyway, Sarah has a fort. I do not.
But I'm reading straight out of the AP, and I introduced him to like an NPC. I don't remember what exactly went down, but I'm reading like the flavor text, and I'm reading Tulak is bigger than most adult male troglodytes, and they think it's him talking, and they're like, why is he talking in third person?
And you're just
That
like,
one was
because
more
he can.
Because
Yeah.
Tulak is bigger than Troglodyte. Roll initiative.
That one was more just humorous, I guess. But
It stuck. I remember it to this day.
yeah, in terms of like stuff you could do, you one thing you could do is put like a bunch of like CR like 1/8 or 1/2 like squirrels and like a bunch of them because they'll freak out and be, like when they see all the dice hit the board. But
Now, to go farther on that, I did read somewhere. I didn't read a lot into it, but like there's a Reddit post and someone like when I was asking for monsters for this, somebody said that a cat, not a familiar, just like some alley cat, if you rolled well enough, would just like tear the bejesus out of like the NPC codex as a human warrior if you roll well enough, which I think is hilarious.
makes
Have you ever
sense.
fought a cat? Man.
Yeah.
Well, that was a huge joke in 3.5 was cats versus commoners, because like just a standard cat's stat block compared to your average NPC commoner, they were so close that it was not mechanically a stretch at all for a house cat to kill a human.
Oh, now that just makes me want to run a H.P. Lovecraft thing, Cats of Ulthar encounter.
Dude. I'll sleep all the night knowing my house cat is gonna sleep like right by my face. When anyway, you got anything else there? I know you weren't here a week ago when we were like putting the frame together for this.
My one other thing I'd like, I know you talked about before, but you can always put it up against something that's like way over their CR, and then dumb them down quite a bit. But give like flavor text reasons behind it, so it'll scare them, but then it ends up being easier for some reason. So I don't think it's like a huge like great worm, but dumb it down like a lot or something, or have like an important NPC come out of nowhere and kill them. It sounds kind of like the easy way out, but if you can make it work, make it fit with your story, it could be a good plot device.
Yeah, there's been a lot of games that Joe's GM'd, and like I don't have salt about it, but there was another player in that group did, and it was. I mean, like the world had literally gone to hell, and I don't mean like Pathfinder hell. I mean like we were some like the Bible stuff, and we were basically just every session is hold out, don't die. People are coming to save you in 3 hours. Just hold on, and that would be what happened at the end. Just forever and ever, there'd be armies of lancers recharging and smacking things in the head. But like some players will get upset about that. Like, well, we didn't. But she makes a point. If you can drive the story home, that's more important than the combat is, which is again, while like the term encounter, I guess, just kind of like it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because like I don't necessarily want to just show up, kick something in the head, move forward, kick something else in the head. I really like monks like yesterday. Move forward, shocking grasp you to death, and then move on about my life. Also, definitely like dumbing things down to 1 hit dice. I like doing it as a like if I want something to be a PC race. Well, PC race is the wrong thing. Well, no, yeah, it is true. Like you want to play Sarah's played a Solar Angel in a campaign, and we just dumbed him down, and like he died. Watched it happen. It's good, but it's not super overpowered. I'm sitting here right now getting my next episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship together, and we're doing Black Butterfly. And I'd never looked at her stat block before, and her stat block is sweet. And as a player, I'd love to be able to just like, can I play Black Butterfly at CR1 and 5 foot step 200 feet, please?
I mean, I guess I did that with Mathis, right?
Yeah, you definitely played Mathis for a while. That was fun. What are we doing on time? We got 8:21. Does anybody else have anything like on point of what we're supposed to be discussing? We're really good at like I said before, I didn't really expect to make friends when I was going out into the YouTube world, and if I don't ever make money off this, more so than the $5 a month I am now, and like occasional like here's a little bit here and there, I say I'm coming out ahead because I made friends, because here we are just like going back and forth about dumb tabletop things all night long. But if there's anything anybody has to add about CR1 or lower, I'll just kind of open the floor up if anybody's got anything.
All I
Joe-
can really say about you go, Adam.
Well, you go
Go
ahead. I
ahead,
was
go.
going to mention something. Okay, that's not the correct CR, so okay.
Okay. All I'll say about using monsters of low CR is, like Tommy said, CR is kind of an arbitrary measuring stick to determine whether or not your party's going to be able to handle it. When you're building an encounter, it's important to know a couple things, and that's what your party's good at and what your monsters do. If you know those two things, you can build an encounter using scarlet spiders and house centipedes, or ghouls, or house cats. And it's not going to matter. You can make a challenging, enjoyable encounter. You just have to know what it is your monsters do.
Yeah, that is very true. I definitely know, like, when we get to the next CR bracket, I know exactly which worm-like creature I'm talking about, because there's just, like, the perfect counter for, like, most of the front line of that group in Lord of the Caliber. If you guys have watched through, I'm probably going to, like, make a sub, what am I trying to say? Like, a sub playlist for the Prisons of Kidira or something, but the monster at the end of that was really, really, really effective because it was really effective specifically against people who were attacking with natural attacks a bunch.
Yeah, that thing felt like it was a slightly higher CR than they put in the book. Because
Yeah,
of the way the
again, CR is an entirely arbitrary number.
It's very contextual. I can't. Who's gonna claim the Remoraz when we get up to that CR?
Remembers?
Because I guarantee one of you is gonna.
I definitely do like me some bookworms. Never had a whole lot of problem with them though. Like, they're there, they exist, but full attack. Wow.
well,
Just speaking of
Um,
monsters that are really nasty to deal with in melee and with natural attacks.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, we know
Yeah, I never went
Joe's
up against one.
already
Mhm.
claiming in the chat that he's going after trolls when we get there.
Oh,
So-
of course.
Yeah. I did have a couple to mention. The Vishkanya, they're actually a playable race. They have Vishkanya venom. And if we're going back to that idea of poisons and things like that, they're technically a CR 1/2 if you just take them straight out of the book, which means you can add another level or two of something. No, you can add another level and keep them still in CR. So if you give them one level of rogue, in fact, I think that this is a one that's already pre-built for something. It's a ninja. So yeah, if you take this Vishkanya ninja, you give it one more level in ninja, and then its fort DC. You play with its stats a bit. Don't even bother playing with its stats. Its fort DC for the venom is 10 plus half the Vishkanya's hit dice. Plus the Vishkanya's con modifier. So this particular one, as a ninja, not as a fighter that was poisoning their weapons, imagine that, but as a ninja, it's got a con of 14, so that's a +2, and it's got hit dice of, if you bump it up one more level, of 2, so that's a 14 DC to start with on a fort save, and it's a ninja, so it goes after the spellcasters first. Yeah, that could get devastating.
Poison users, if you use them right, they're quite nasty against people who are not immune or have bad saves. But then again,
It's rough.
poisons are a niche thing if they're going to be useful or not. At certain levels of the game, poisons become useless unless you build to make them a viable build still.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the things I like the two things I like the most about low CRs is that both poisons and like CMB stuff, at least for like players, are a lot more viable at these levels than they will be at high end play. Because if we're trying to poison folks, whether we're players or GMs, like, somebody's going to either A, be immune because of class stuff, B, have the ability to cast like restoration or antidotes or stuff like that, or C, have actually like had the foresight as a player to be like, oh, I'm going where the poisonous things are. I'm gonna buy some antivenoms because I'm smart. And then the poison is just immediately shut off. And then also, this is more of a thing for players, I guess, than GMs, but I find that CMB, as we level up, becomes increasingly hard to the point where at the high end, it's almost completely impossible to be able to like trip or grapple or bull rush anything. This is probably mostly because as the CR goes up, so too does the size category. So we're trying to like bear hug Cthulhu, and it gets us all in nowhere.
All you got to do, I already
remember,
have a solution.
And actually,
for
I'm
that.
just remembering this.
I already got a solution for that.
I have one
You
too,
play-
and I'm just remembering it now. Joe did it, and this was a million years ago. The archetype is called Brutal Pugilist, I think, and it was like the party composition was Sarah is on a half celestial bard. Matt was on I think, a half oracle, and I'm trying to play an archer on a fighter. So like I'm flying up, shooting down, and these guys have almost no response except for, well, I guess I'll draw my sword. And that became like that campaign. Essentially, Trevon had to like really learn how to switch hit, but grappling at low levels super easy to pull off, especially like the barbarian will probably resist it, and like the rogue will escape ours out. But everybody else, like even going up to like 7, 8, 9, if you're not building to grapple, you're not going to have the CMD, and like God forbid the witch that dumped her decks, or like anybody with just low numbers there. You'll get them where you want them. You'll push them. You'll steal from them. You'll trip them. You'll Dirty Trick can stun you, I think. I don't remember. But the point is, those two things at low levels, super easier to pull off. And if that's your thing, this is probably the arena to do so at CR1 or less.
True. Or you can play a Duragar Totori monk and get the wizard to enlarge person after you have already enlarged person with your
Does that stack?
Possibly.
Well, per the rules as written, it doesn't, but I mean,
Bah.
that's a
Forget the rules as written. Technically, you'd still be a large creature. So
Yeah.
wrestling Cthulhu would be a bit easier.
According to the enlarged person, anything that already enlarges your size magically does not stack with a person.
Awesome.
But there's been a million times when I've used Frightful Aspect and stacked it with enlarged person. I had a huge cleric of Vildius, half celestial with Frightful Aspect and enlarged person.
All right. I had one more thing to bring up when you guys were talking about how environment can affect things. Just think about making this long trek. You've been walking for ages. You're suffering from at least one level of exhaustion, or at least some kind of environmental problem, walking through all this snow and ice and stuff. And you have to keep walking, because if you don't keep walking, they'll catch up. And they happen to be the unsleeping, undying. Just throw some undead in that particular area, and yeah, that motivates the PCs to keep walking.
I actually wanted to bring up, you brought up poison. Same idea, except replace zombies with Morphodons. CR1 flying poisoners. They don't have the best to hit, they're not the fastest, but they have a DC 15 poison that lowered strength, which is pretty good.
Adam, another thing, if you want to reduce CR, especially if you've been using this power a lot, it is a negative. Certain monsters, when it comes to undead, they get to use negative level drain as part of their attack.
Oh.
And that's just nasty, especially for casters.
And I remember the first time that negative levels ever got thrown around when we were playing Pathfinder, and I was expecting like 3.5 negative levels, so we have to just erase everything and go back and and like spend 30 minutes rebuilding. But in Pathfinder, yeah, for sure, like especially for level 1, level 3, and like something has a slam that deals a negative level, and then suddenly like you are a 2-turn clock essentially before you like fade away into dust. Negative levels, I would probably say use those really carefully at level 1, level 2, because like players are going to get one shot and not like in the here's the orc critting with his falchion kind of way, in the like I'm gonna tap you on the head and poof, you die.
The good thing is level drain. It's mostly applied to higher CR for the undead. So by that point,
Yeah, that's true.
they can survive. I think the lowest CR undead that have level drain is like CR 10, I believe. And
I see. Okay,
and this is like a ghost.
I mean, vampires have it, and they're like CR 8-ish, I think.
Yeah,
And
you gotta get it a little higher before you start getting to level drain. So that's
Or start torturing people.
The lowest monster to have CR drain is the vampire template applied to a.
Applied to like a CR 1-8 cat.
that would be quite deadly. I think it's like a CR8 vampire in the bestiary one that have level drain, but it's quite nasty. You shouldn't be using it that lightly.
Yeah, pretty nice.
I think vampire spawn have level drain in their CR4.
Yeah, they have level drain. And they are way higher CR than we're talking about.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
It's a CR2 just to make something a +2 to something CR just to make it a vampire anyway.
So we put it on a CR 1/3, and it ticks up, and then we still just. I guess the +2 would go 1/3 to 1/2.
It would round down. It would still be a CR2.
I see. Okay, fair enough.
What if you put it on a common bat that was a vampire that got stuck as his bat form, and now he's stuck that way? So that's the only form.
You don't have to deal with. You don't have to deal with like weird fractional CRs unless you're playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons back when half levels were a thing.
Oh my god.
Ugh.
Or Pathfinder Unchained.
Oh yeah. Some of those rules were really good ideas. Some of those rules weren't.
Some of those rules are Starfinder.
Like I said, some of those rules were really good
Craft or whatever.
All right, we're about time, guys.
Yeah, we should go.
Well,
thanks for coming by and watching, guys. As always, thanks to Adam and Kane this time, but all of the Planar Crossroads for hanging out and talking about Joan tabletop stuff with us. This time next week, we will be over there talking about CR. Is it 2 to 5 next week, Adam? Is that right?
It's 2 to 4, and then 5
2 to 4
to 7. So we're gonna try and cover about 3 CR each time. We didn't this time.
Yeah, just so this doesn't take literally forever.
Yeah, it doesn't take 20 months or 20 weeks.
Like all of my stages right now. But, I enjoy doing them. Anyway, so thanks again, guys, for coming out. Be sure to check out the Planar Crossroads. If for no other reason, then you get to see yours truly play a Gafflane. I don't even remember what I'm playing. Eldritch Guardian, Mutagenic Warrior, the Archetype stack. And I'm just going to feed you to the wheelhouse and be stabbing people. And it's going to be super great. Be sure to like and subscribe, both of us, for more videos. And everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.